everyone, I'm Suzanne Siracuse, and welcome to Season 3 of the Big Reveal podcast series. This season, I am partnering with Invent, a firm devoted to helping financial service firms and RIAs deliver on their ultimate tech vision. And on today's episode, I am joined by Marguerita Cheng. Marguerita, or Rita as she is often called, is the CEO at Blue Ocean Global Wealth, an RIA firm whose mission is to help women, families, and entrepreneurs plan and protect their money so that they can make rational decisions about their finances. I love that description, by the way. Prior to founding Blue Ocean, she was a financial advisor at Ameriprise and an analyst and editor at Towa Securities in Tokyo, Japan. She holds many certifications, including the CFP, the CRPC, the RICP. An in-demand financial writer and speaker, Rita has contributed her expertise to numerous media outlets, including Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and CNBC. She's a women's initiative advocate and member of the Diversity Advisory Group for the CFP board. And in 2022, this year, she was named the number 4 most influential financial advisor in the Investopedia Top 100 list. And in 2017 was named as Women to Watch by Investment News. And I remember that well, Marguerita, because I believe I handed you that award. What a list of accreditations and achievements you have. Wow. And just so glad to have you on the Big Reveal. Welcome. And thanks again so much for being a part of this. So I'd really love to start with how you actually became an advisor and CEO of your own firm. You describe yourself as a career changer. So what was the catalyst to you becoming a financial advisor?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I love this question because I am so passionate about the financial advice profession. What people don't know about me is I actually am a career changer. I studied East Asian language and literature and finance. And why is that relevant? Because my first job in finance was on Tokyo Wall Street. I got a job writing a newsletter for English-speaking investors. And I have a background in accounting and finance, and I could read financial statements. While this job paid well, I kind of felt a little disconnected. I had no idea who we were serving, but I did it because I think it's important to learn. I always tell people it's just as important to know what you like as much as what you don't like. So like all things, it's time for me to come back to America. And I realized that I wanted to take these concepts we learn in corporate finance and apply them to individuals and families. Strong financial balance sheets, that's a personal net worth statement. Healthy cash flows, cash flow protections, that's really a budget. So I decided that I was going to be a financial planner. Now, I was in my 20s, and I'm well aware people would be looking at me and thinking, what do you know about retirement? So I spent the next, I'd say 3 to 5 years preparing. I helped my husband prepare for the CPA exam. That's right. A lot of support. I drove him to test prep. I bought him $5 sushi. There's no more $5 sushi because of inflation. And we bought a house, 2 kids. And I was like, that's it. I have street credibility. I'm going to be a financial advisor. So I'm going to stop here, Suzanne, and kick it back to you.
Yeah, well, so you were the advisor of your own home, right? So you were using your own real life experience to use as your level of experience with your clients and getting that confidence, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I realized that, financial planning wasn't just investments. It was, okay, we're buying a house. How much do we put down? Then it came time to have kids. Oh my goodness. How do I plan for childcare? Do I use the dependent care spending account? What about childcare tax credits? Oh, mortgage rates are lower. We need to refinance. How much life insurance do we need? And that's when I realized that I really wanted to be a financial planner because I realized the difference, the positive impact financial planning had on my family.
That is such a great example for those that are listening, especially those that are just starting out as a financial planner. Like, use your own life experience to identify different opportunities, recommendations for when you're working with your clients. I absolutely love that, and I love that your background. So many people that I interview have a background a little bit in writing and English, in teaching and reading and things like that. And it's interesting how those skill sets translate over to becoming a financial advisor. So I love that. I love learning about people's journeys and how they actually became a financial advisor. Very few that I've talked to actually like studied it in college. So thanks for sharing your story. And obviously you're a very successful financial advisor. And one question that I hear from other advisors all the time is, how do you grow your client base, right? So everybody's thinking about how they're growing their business and number of clients, revenues, all of that. So what methods did you use or are you using currently in your practice that were really successful for you?
So this is another thing that's funny, and I can't believe it. So this just shows how old I am, or it shows how like resilient and committed I was. So I didn't really have a natural market. And my parents, my dad was born in China. I came to the US by way of Taiwan. And when I started my career, my dad didn't even live in America. He spent time in Taiwan and the US. So dad's natural market, mommy's natural market just wasn't going to work. So early on, what did I do? I think about my ability to relate and connect with people. I was good on the phone. Like, I know how to make people smile. So initially, I built my practice. Can you believe it? Year one, 33 clients. 31 were from picking up the phone and talking to people. 32 was my dad, because I told him he had to do planning. And 33 was a girlfriend from my previous life. So that was the base. But then I learned that it's not enough to just ask for referrals. You need to make yourself referable. And so that's really, I think about just being a trusted, helpful resource to people in your community. And your community could be friends, family, it could be your existing clients. Just be there to answer questions and be that trusted resource.
So what were I would say, the top things that an advisor can do to become referable? I know you said be that trusted source, but are there specific examples that you can talk to that really made you referable?
So I would say, I am very detail oriented, and sometimes I got criticized early on for asking too many questions, for listening. Marguerita, you are a lousy financial advisor. You are horrible at sales. You spend too much time asking questions, building relationships, and listening. Okay, I'm a horrible advisor. So I would say that the way in which you become preferable is you pay attention to those little things and acknowledge people. If someone sent me a check and I would send them a quick email to confirm receipt of the check, these little things mean a lot, and they really don't take that long. It's the little things. If I knew that someone's kid graduated, I sent the kid a present. And don't worry, this was totally compliant. I disclosed it to compliance. I think it's really the little things that make a difference. I pay attention. Another example is, I have a lot of clients that are professors or in academia or researchers. They spend a lot of time on their feet. One client was complaining to me how his feet hurt. I'm a runner. I bought him 3 pairs of socks with a gift receipt. So if he didn't like them, he could exchange them. He said to me that was the most thoughtful present, because now he has happy feet. So I say to people, really pay attention to the little things. That's how you become referable. And if you don't know the answer, you can say, you know what? I don't really know the answer, but let me tell you, I'm going to try to get that answer for you. And if you still don't know the answer, just say, hey, want to let you know, I haven't forgotten about this. I'm still working on this for you. People are not going to be disappointed. If anything, they're going to be really impressed. And that is exactly how you become referable.
Yeah, those are great examples. And you're right, it is the little things. I know for me with my own advisor, when I was celebrating a milestone birthday. I'm not going to say which one, but she made a donation to my favorite animal charity. And that went a long way. When my mother was ill and we were taking over, like managing her finances, they looked over her portfolio, right? And they didn't need to do that. They didn't ask to be compensated for it. It was just those little things that they went out of their way. And part of that, and I know a lot of people describe you this way, including myself, as being empathetic, and what an important skill set that is. Because a lot of times advisors are way more than advisors. And you had a situation that happened where one of your clients, it was an older gentleman, but he wasn't sick, passed away suddenly. And you went above and beyond, doing some things for the widow. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just as an example of really, you'll have a client for life. And I guarantee you, if she hasn't referred you out, she certainly will after all the things that you did to help her.
Absolutely. So these clients have been with me since before my youngest child was born. I've been working with them for 18 years. And what happened is the husband, Thomas, he didn't really have any health issues, serious health issues. Okay, he was a little bit, as the wife put it, unstable on his feet. He didn't have the best balance. But one day he went out for an errand to buy birdseed. They love gardening. And he fell down. She received a call from the hospital. Your husband's here. She's like, this can't be right. He did fall down. He hit his head. He had to be hospitalized. They have long-term care insurance. I did advise them to purchase long-term care through their employer, because it seemed like a really good deal. So they had that protection in place. When he was supposed to come home from rehabilitation, so he made it out of the hospital to rehabilitation, his condition took a turn for the worst, bleeding in the brain, and he passed away. This happened in June. And of course, I called her back. I could hear in her voice. She's like, hi, this is Pat. Please call me. I knew what happened. I called her back. So here's the cadence of events. Of course, I called her back. I sent her a card. I sent her flowers, and I sent her a book on grieving. I didn't do all this at once. I do it throughout the summer. And then I told her when she is well, and I knew it would take time, that I'm here for her. And so on Friday, October 28th, I drove up a little bit outside of Pittsburgh, and I spent the day with her. She was so kind. She's like, Rita, I don't really cook a lot these days. I'm still feeling sad. I was like, you don't have to prepare anything for me. This day really is about you. And I brought her flowers. I helped her go over some paperwork. And she was so glad to see me. And I'm so glad I did that, because it just meant so much to her. She said this to me. She's like, what makes this hard is I know he didn't suffer, but I didn't expect to lose him so soon. He really wasn't sick. And that is the power of, being an empathetic planner, is knowing that you're going to be there for clients during the most joyous moments, and also know and reassure her that, she's going to be okay. Yes, it's okay for her to experience these different stages of grief, but she will be okay, and I have her back.
Oh, that's, first of all, so sad, but thank God that she had an advisor like you. And I think that that's a great example. All of the advisors that are listening, or that will be listening to this podcast, are going to experience something like that. And so it's a good example of how you handled it, and just, again, client for life. So another question that I hear a lot from advisors is, how do you best communicate with your client base, and in what form? Is it weekly, monthly, email, text, phone, video? Tell us a little bit about the process that you have at Blue Ocean that's proven effective on your communicating with your current client base.
So the first thing I do when I onboard a client, I ask them their preferred method of contact, right? Do you prefer phone call, email? The other thing I ask them is, how do they like to hear from me? So if it's a couple, I will ask them if they both want to be included. I think it's really important, because some people, they might be the decision maker, but I want to make sure that everyone is involved. Obviously, if it's someone's IRA, you may not have to include both people. So I ask them straight up, what is your preferred method of contact and how would you like me to communicate with you? So I just put that out there. The second thing is, I think that people know when to expect to hear from me. And I tell people, you can email me anything, but I also coach them. If there's something secure, meaning an account number, social security number, email address, I want you to use the portal or secure email. And when you explain this to people, I have clients who are 80 years old that know how to do it. When you coach them and explain them, people are not going to complain. It's just they're a little bit fearful. So I would say that, ask people how they like to communicate. I send out a newsletter every week. Now, I don't know how many people read the newsletter. I know you can click, but I do know that sometimes people hit reply. They're like, oh, we need to meet, or oh, thank you, or this was good. So I'd say find out what works best for your clients, and you can customize their preferred method. I mean, there are filters and fields within a CRM to make your life easier so you don't have to remember everything.
What's in your newsletter, for example? Is it all market information? Is it, information about retirement? What kind of topics do you put into your newsletter?
So first of all, there's a lot of services that are compliance approved. So you want to make sure that you are compliance approved. I say this first and foremost. But my newsletter does have like an opening about what is going on. But then in the newsletter, there's also links to articles. So this is what I say. I'm based here in DC and I filter. I don't want anything about politics going out in my newsletter. So the newsletter, it'll be announcements, the Fed or interest rates. And I know that is some element of politics, but you know what I mean. I don't want anything about candidates in the feed. But then I also select articles that I think resonate with everybody. Everyone loves travel. Everyone loves good food. Who doesn't want to be strong, healthy, fit, healthy, wealthy, and wise? And so I have something about like travel, enjoying good food, technology, productivity. And that way, I understand you can't be all things to all people, but I think about universal themes and what interests my clients. And everyone does love travel and eating good food.
So wait a minute. So you don't just put stuff about financial and retirement and all that?
Correct. There's links to like food and
Great.
things like that, because I think about like, we all like to eat good food. Maybe like we have people that are plant-based or people like fish, but basically we can all agree that there's nothing like a nice savory meal. Now I'm like hungry. And travel, people are thinking about that next best trip. So there are like links to other articles that have been curated. And the platform I use, I think it's okay to say, is I use AdvisorStream. It is compliance approved and the things that I send are archived. So there's technology that you can use to make you more efficient without compromising compliance.
That's great to know. And it's called AdvisorStream. A lot of times advisors do ask about specific vendors, the fact that it is compliant and that they have a variety of different topics, not just financial, I think is really smart. And yeah, it's always, you never know who's reading these newsletters, but even if it's just knowing that you're there, you're paying attention, you're thoughtful. It's those, again, going back to those little things. I love it. Also, so, my next question to you is around the market, right? So we've had a lot of market uncertainty as of late, right? There's a downturn in the Dow and, significant fluctuations in the market overall, adding in inflation, rising interest rates. And this presents a scary and uncertain scenario to most investors. So what advice do you have for advisors on how to communicate with their clients during these uncertain times? What tips do you have? What seemed to work with your client base?
Well, I think the most important thing, and I love this question, is to acknowledge their feelings. Yes, it is scary. Yes, it is overwhelming. I think people want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged, and also explain what this means. So my daughter took AP Econ last year, And I had to explain a lot of these concepts to her. And I'm pleased to report my daughter's a good student. And yes, I'm a good mommy. Carolina scored double five. She scored a 5 on macro and a 5 on micro. I had to explain these concepts to my daughter. I told her, I was like, this isn't just about getting a 5 on the test. This is about you understanding what it means to you. So explaining to clients, yes, we are in high inflation. This is what it means. When there's volatility, what they need to do. So I would say acknowledging, affirming their feelings, and then demonstrating and showing that despite this volatility, that as long as their goals have not changed and their time horizon hasn't changed, that we do have a financial plan that is strategic that will help get them across the finish line.
Yeah, so really key acknowledging like, yes, it can be a little scary right now, but here are the pros and cons. Here's why you started to invest to begin with. And just reiterating that, do you do proactive calling or proactive communication when, interest rates are going up, when, the news is covering all the news about inflation, when the market is had a terrible day? How do you handle those like kind of specific spikes?
So the other thing that I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge is I also talk a lot about risk. I talk about market risk. I talk about inflation risk, and I talk about interest rate risk. And I say risk is everywhere, right? But we have different buckets of money, and I share with them what their risk number is. I show them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I know that it can be very difficult for clients, but I also know that they are paying attention, because it's quite funny when clients repeat back to me, yes, Rita, we remember what you said about the stock market not cooperating. It's not cooperating this year. So I do try to, I don't want people to day trade. I also don't want to say just set it and forget it. So there's times where I am going to be a little bit proactive. So a good example of being proactive is in early 2020, before we knew about the pandemic, a lot of positions in international and emerging markets had increased in value. I suggested people rebalance and pare down those positions because international had done quite well. And I said, if the coronavirus does become something very serious, you'll be happy that we pared back. If it doesn't become serious, you'll still be happy because you still have that position. It'll run up. I think that it can be really challenging because sometimes people will see the news and like, well, what should I do? If it's retirement money, even if you're 65, my grandmother lived to be 94. Maybe you may not live to 90, but you're still a long-term investor. So bringing it back to their risk number, showing their financial goals, can always be really helpful.
That's great. And that's great advice. And so you do use some technology to help with that risk number and supply that. Is that something that you do from your initial meeting, planning meeting with your clients?
Absolutely. Even before clients decide to sign a planning agreement, they get a risk number. And then when they sign a planning agreement, I will also provide them with the risk number of a portfolio so they can see, here's how I answered and here's how my portfolio is. And I tell people this is a judgment-free zone. There's no labels. These are numbers. If the numbers are close to one another, you have risk alignment, and that's great to know. If they're not close, you have risk misalignment, and that's okay to know too. That's exactly why we're having this conversation. So I talk a lot about risk, but hopefully people aren't sick of me.
No, and do you use a particular, I think that's a great tool. And it's a great way to set the stage for whether the market goes up or down, quite frankly. So brilliant on your part. Do you use a particular, do you use like a Riskalyze or something for that?
Yes, I use Riskalyze so everyone knows their risk number. And this is the other thing I tell clients. I said, when I'm developing a financial plan, I'm planning for the family. But rest assured, I'm not going to have one spouse or partner invest more aggressively or more conservatively than they are comfortable. I am planning together, but you are individual investors. And this goes over really well.
I love that. I've never heard that. I think that's a great approach. So in addition to, running your business and serving your clients, you're also doing something else. You're teaching ethics to other advisors. So you could teach a lot of different things based on your accreditations. Why ethics?
So this is interesting. I was, and I still am, very involved in the professional associations such as FPA. And as an FPA chapter leader, a lot of people would complain, oh my gosh, ethics is so boring. And rightfully so. Sometimes people would just read. Why ethics? I experienced an ethical dilemma. And no, I did not do anything wrong, and no one was harmed. My dad actually started to experience cognitive decline as a result of complications from Parkinson's disease. My dad, before he became sick, used to trade options. Dad was not greedy. Dad was just trying to make $1,500 a month, his pocket money, his discretionary income. But then Dad started to lock himself out, and he locked himself out of his accounts. These aren't accounts that I manage. This was his trading account. And the first couple times I helped him reset his password. But then I was like, you know what? Listen, I lock myself out of, I can't remember, but this was a little bit different. And I had a conversation with my mom, and my mom was like, can't you just help him? And I said, no, Mom, this is an ethical dilemma. I have to do what's in the best interest of my dad. And people might say, hey, Rita, you're a little bit too literal. But sometimes what we have to do is protect the client from themselves. I did not lock my dad out of his account. I just did not help him unlock it the third time. And I informed my sisters, and we got the estate planning attorney involved. And we came to I don't want to say compromise, because compromise means somebody is giving something up. And yes, my dad did give up online trading capabilities, but we reached a consensus that everyone could support. So here's what we decided as a family. Dad could have online access so he could log on and see that nobody took his money, because this is common with cognitive decline, like paranoia. It was very important for Dad to see that his money was still there, but it was not appropriate or in his best interest to trade. So I thought, you know what? I experienced this ethical dilemma, and I decided to become a CE provider and be a provider of ethics CE, and then weave in these stories, because I realized I can't be alone. This was an ethical dilemma. On the one hand, we're supposed to follow our client's instructions. The key here is reasonable. On the other hand, we have to do what's in our client's best interest. But I do stand behind my decision that it was not in Dad's best interest to continue to trade options for pocket money.
Thank you for that. Thanks for sharing that personal story. So there are a lot of benefits of being an independent advisor, but sometimes it can be challenging too, as you really are, quite frankly, independent. So what advice do you have for other independent advisors on running their practices that have really helped you in running your own practice?
So I'd say the first thing I would say is to make sure you take an active role in our profession. Join the professional associations. If it's not appropriate for you to sign up for a committee, I get it. There were times where I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't see straight. Remember, my dad was really sick. I had 3 kids. But even if you just are a member and you participate in the all-member forum and you find out what people are saying, this can be incredibly helpful. So take an active role in your profession. Join the association's study groups. Study group doesn't necessarily mean cramming for a test. It can also mean discussing a topic, whether that's technology, practice management. This is a big one. And I don't know, maybe it's because I have the abundance mentality. Don't view other financial advisors as your competitors. They're your collaborators. There's plenty for us all to be successful. And expand your network and bring others along. Remember, I told you I didn't really have a natural market because I lived a lot of my 20s outside of this country. And so when I came here, I didn't really have like a network. So I had to build my network. And I'm so appreciative for those who invited me in. I'm very intentional about including others. So expand your network, bring others along, invite them to serve in you don't want to use the word committee, a working group for education. You can say things, hey, we put on 10 educational programs a year. what topics have you heard? What speakers do you like? Notice here, I haven't said the word committee. You're practicing diversity, equity, inclusion. You're asking what they're interested in, what speaker, what topic. Then you gather these names, and next thing you know it, you have built your committee. I think this is really important. Someone said this to me. They're like, Rita, the only person I know that can get people to do stuff, and they don't even know that they're like working and making them feel good about it.
That's wonderful. And that's like fabulous advice, right? Is, the study groups. I've talked to so many advisors that have gotten so much out of that, and actually really not just learned from others, but also realized that they have a strength in something that they're doing in their own organization, and we're able to share with others as well. So that's such great advice. My gosh, you've given such great information on this podcast, I'm telling you. So incredibly useful for advisors looking to grow and manage their practices effectively. So now it is that time in the podcast. Tell us, Marguerita, what is your big reveal?
So my big reveal is, as you know, I am so passionate about helping everyone gain clarity, confidence, and control over their financial lives. I also love to support women and girls. So here's my big reveal. In 2019, I ran 3 marathons in 3 weeks. In 2022, I ran 3 in 5. This is my big reveal. A little girl wrote this letter to me. I just finished MCM, that's Marine Corps Marathon, on Sunday, October 30th, right before Halloween. And my big reveal is this. I'm in the 3rd grade, and it's my 2nd time on Girls on the Run. I love how Girls on the Run shows girls how to take care of themselves and how we can run. I really love the time we learned about respecting others. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for supporting us. So why is this my big reveal? Just as I started where it was very difficult to hear that my client had passed away too soon, right? It was untimely. Every death is untimely, but the client was not prepared to see her husband go. I love knowing that I'm there for clients during a difficult time, but my big reveal is knowing that every little girl, when I say little girl, young runner from 3rd grade to 8th grade, has the opportunity to feel strong, confident, and healthy. I want everyone to have that feeling when they cross the finish line, and I want everyone to have that feeling when they do comprehensive financial planning.
I love that. And what's the name of that charity that you're involved in?
So when I run as a domestic runner in the United States, I run for Girls on the Run. So I ran for Girls on the Run in DC, Chicago, and New York. But when I run internationally, I run for Girl Up, because I want women and girls to have the opportunity to feel strong, confident, and empowered.
I'm not even surprised at all this, because as the listeners that have followed this for the last couple seasons, I never know what my guest's big reveal is purposely. And I love that yours has to do with giving back and empowering women. That is a fantastic big reveal. And thank you for sharing that. And I know you're a big proponent of pro bono planning, et cetera, and giving back to the profession that has given a lot to others and to yourself. So that's wonderful, Rita. Thank you so much for sharing your big reveal. And I hope you all enjoyed listening to the many insights that Rita provided today on growing and maintaining your practice, communicating with your clients, and much more. But I also hope that you got to learn a little bit more about Marguerita, the person. I hope you will continue to tune in to the Big Reveal podcast series so you can be the first to find out who's next to reveal their big reveal. Thank you so much, Marguerita. That was terrific.
Thank you so much for having me.